Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Hidden Horror. How are you guys doing today? I hope your day is going well. I hope you're staying hydrated and staying out of this heat, right? It's a hot one today. So, today I'm here. I want to talk about Sean Combs, and he's really trying to get these two convictions, the prostitution related convictions, thrown out, or he says, you know what, give me a new trial. Let's talk about it. So let's bring him up on the screen, Mr. Combs. Okay, let's enlarge that. Okay, so we're talking about him today. The article is coming from abcnews.go.com. The article is titled Sean Diddy Combs Asks Judge to Throw Out Guilty Verdicts or Grant Him a New Trial. Sean Diddy Combs, the writer is Andrew Dalton, AP entertainment writer, and the article is dated July 31st, 2025. Sean Diddy Combs has asked a judge to dismiss his guilty verdicts on prostitution related charges or grant him a new trial. Sean Diddy Combs has asked a judge to throw out his guilty verdicts on prostitution related counts or grant him a new trial, saying such convictions are without precedent. This conviction stands alone, but it shouldn't stand at all, the Wednesday filing said. Combs' lawyer argued that his two felony convictions were a unique misapplication of the federal Mann Act, which bars interstate commerce related to prostitution. So, in a nutshell, they're saying that you're not allowed to have prostitution related activities relating to a business. Now, I wanted to find out and learn some more about the Mann Act. So I went right online. So I want to tell you a few things, and I put a little link to the Wikipedia for the Mann Act. The Mann Act, previously called the White Slave Traffic Act of 1910, is a United States federal law that was passed June 25th, 1910. It is named after Congressman James Robert Mann of Illinois. In its original form, the act made it a felony to engage in interstate or foreign commerce transport of any woman or girl for the purpose of prostitution or debauchery or for any other immoral purpose. Its primary stated intent was to address prostitution, immorality, and human trafficking, particularly where trafficking was for the purpose of prostitution. It was one of several acts of protective legislation aimed at moral reform during the Progressive Era. In practice, its ambiguous language about immorality resulted in it being used to criminalize even consensual sexual behavior between adults. It was amended by Congress in 1978 and again in 1986 to limit its application to transport for the purpose of prostitution or other illegal sexual acts. So now, when we look at the context of this act being used and applied in Mr. Combs' case, what do you think? Do you think it's being misapplied? Because a lot of his charges did relate to the alleged transport of people for the goal of having S activity, right? I don't know. Let's continue the article. So Combs' lawyer argued that his two felony convictions were a unique misapplication of the federal Mann Act, which bars interstate commerce related to prostitution. To our knowledge, Mr. Combs is the only person ever convicted of violating the statute for conduct anything like this, a Wednesday filing from Combs' legal team said. Combs, 55, was convicted in a New York federal court of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution for flying people around the country, including his girlfriends and male sex workers, for sexual encounters, while he was acquitted of more serious charges. He could get up to a decade in prison at his sentencing set for October the 3rd. His lawyers argue that none of the elements normally used for Mann Act convictions, including profiting from sex work or coercion, were present here. So they're saying that he didn't profit. And profit, I'm assuming they're talking about financially. He didn't financially profit from this alleged S work. And also, it was not forced. He didn't force the people allegedly that were having the activity to do the activity, okay? Let's continue. It is undisputed that he had no commercial motive and that all involved were adults, the filing said. So again, this act was to protect women and girls primarily. And they're saying, well, all of the people involved were adults, were consenting adults. Let's continue. The men chose to travel and engage in the activity voluntarily. So they're saying, well, if they're in another state, in order for them to get to wherever this activity was occurring in another state, in another country, or whatever, they voluntarily came. They were not forced. They were not coerced. They weren't threatened to come. They voluntarily left their home, got in a Uber, for example, got on a plane, arrived at the destination. They were not forced to do this. Okay, let's continue. The verdict confirms the women were not vulnerable or exploited or trafficked or assaulted. That's kind of tough because they're saying that they weren't vulnerable. That's kind of questionable. Also, even exploited, using them over and over for this S activity. I don't know. And then they're saying trafficked or S assaulted. Well, they were meeting with allegedly, they were meeting with various S workers, okay, and having this activity. The lawyer said that Combs at most paid, so they're alleging that he paid to engage in this voyeurism. So voyeurism is watching this activity, right, as part of a swingers lifestyle, and argued that does not constitute prostitution under a properly limited definition of the statutory term. Combs was acquitted of racketeering, conspiracy, and S trafficking. Charges could have put one of hip hop's celebrated figures in prison for life. The new motion asks Judge Aaron Subramanian to vacate the jury's verdict or to order a new trial whose evidence is limited to matters related to the Mann Act counts because of severe spillover, prejudice from reams of inflammatory evidence related to the more serious counts. So they're saying we want that evidence to be limited and only to be comparable or what's limited to just the Mann Act. Whatever the requirements, the restrictions are for the Mann Act, that is the only evidence that should be allowed, because other evidence, more inflammatory evidence, was heard and testified to at the trial that was not necessary or relate to the Mann Act. Okay? Prosecutors insisted during the 8-week trial that Combs had coerced, threatened, and sometimes viciously forced 2 ex-girlfriends to have sex with male sex workers to satisfy his sexual urges. They cited multiple acts of violence he carried out against them as proof that they had no say. A day earlier, Combs' team asked the judge to free him on a $50 million bond while he awaits sentencing in October, after a jury found him not guilty of the most serious federal charges he faced earlier this month. His lawyer argued that conditions at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn are dangerous, noting that others convicted of similar prostitution related offenses were typically released before sentencing. I won't even go there because I did watch a man of a different race be released on bail, which did not seem to be consistent with what they had been doing with Mr. Combs. So I kind of agree that that did happen. I saw that in the news myself, but we'll move on. Subramanian previously denied a request that Combs be released on bail while he was awaiting sentencing, citing a now infamous video of Combs beating a former girlfriend and photographs showing injuries to another ex-girlfriend. The judge has not yet ruled on either of this week's motions. Okay, so I'm going to take Mr. Combs down. I'm frozen here, so we would just wrap it up. I really don't have an opinion of what's going on in Mr. Combs' case. I just want to bring you this update. Overall, there was a lot of testimony. There was a lot of testimony that did not seem to be relating to the charges. I do agree with that. I'm not sure if these issues were brought up before the trial or at the trial. Maybe Mr. Combs has some appeal rights. I don't know if the judge is going to set the jury's verdict to the side and grant a whole new trial, either or. I'm not sure. His sentencing is scheduled for October, so I guess we will wait and see what comes out in the future. Okay, so thanks for spending this time with me. I really, really appreciate it. I want you to stay safe, stay smart, stay savvy. Be well, all my friends. See you in a video soon. Bye, everybody.